important reason they got Phillips is because they needed someone in the leadoff slot who would consistently get on base.
So tonight, the umpires are brought to you as always by NAM, National Arbitration and Mediation, the most timely, cost-effective way to settle your legal disputes. The veteran, the crew chief, Frank Pulley, has the balls and strikes with Charlie Williams at first, Greg Gibson, the umpire, at second, and Ed Rapuano is the umpire at third. And so with Phillips in the leadoff spot, at least for tonight, Brian McRae, who's been so effective lately, will drop down to the 5th spot in the batting order.
Brian McRae has been swinging a hot bat, whether it's in a leadoff slot or down in the order.
So game 2 of a 4-game series between the Mets and Dodgers about to begin. Let's take a look at the Dodgers lineup. This is one of 4 possibilities that manager Glenn Hoffman had on his table before the game, because he wasn't sure whether or not Grusolanic and Perez would ever get here. They did, and so Young leads off at second with Grusolanic making his Dodger debut. At shortstop, Gary Sheffield in right, Eric Karros in the cleanup spot at first, Matt Luke the left fielder, Trinidad Hubbard is in center, Adrian Beltre the third baseman with Charles Johnson behind the plate, and Carlos Perez will do the pitching for the Los Angeles Dodgers. And for the New York Mets, Rick Reed gets set to make his 22nd start of the year. 11 wins, 7 losses, 2.75 earned run average. Rick has had 1 complete game. Last time out, last weekend against the Cubs in Chicago, he took a 3-1 loss. And the first pitch to Eric Young is on the outside corner.
When you look at Rick Reed, you think of a guy who needs a lot of ground balls, yet he's a pitcher who doesn't get very many double play balls.
Very few, about 2, I guess, this year.
Fouled away by Young, a guy you want to keep off base at all costs. He has 33 stolen bases, second in the National League. Rick Reed on Sunday in Chicago went 6 innings, gave up 5 hits and just 2 runs. The Mets would lose that game 3-1 to the Cubs. And the Cubs won their game today at Wrigley, beating Colorado 3-2. And the fastball fouled away to the right side.
In looking at the success Rick Reed has had, many teams have given up on Rick Reed. You wonder, Ralph, if it will have an influence on teams as far as making decisions in the future concerning players. Will they be more patient because of the success of a Rick Reed?
Well, I think they have to be more patient because of expansion. They're looking for bodies.
That is George Fabregas on the left of your screen. He's one of the Mets' new acquisitions, a catcher. And, of course, Bob Apodaca, who's worked so well with Rick Reed going back to their days in Norfolk a couple of years ago. So Dak's got to explain to Fabregas about the arsenal, not only of Rick Reed, but gradually, of course, about all the Met pitchers, because it's a crash course for this kid.
But he didn't figure to do much catching with this ball club.
If he does a lot of catching, that means Mike Piazza's not with the Mets, or he's hurt.
And the 2-2 bounced to short. Ordonez takes care of Young, 1 man away.
Well, the defense for the Mets. Tony Phillips in left field. First game he has played for the Mets. Brian McRae in center field. Butch Husky in left. Ed Alfonso at third base. Ray Ordonez at short. Carlos Baerga at second. John Oberbrud at first, and Mike Piazza, the catcher.
Well, they flew here in the same plane from Montreal. But Grusolanic showed up at the ballpark around 3:30, and Perez just showed up at the park. I get a feeling the Perez family has trouble with directions.
Well, Pasquale couldn't find the ballpark in Atlanta when he first got his driver's license. And he went around and around the ballpark, couldn't get off the freeway down there to get to the park. Missed his start.
You can't miss the ballpark in Atlanta.
He didn't know how to turn off.
Well, you get the feeling Grusolanic would have walked from Montreal to get to whatever his new destination would be. He was miserable up there. Remember, this is a guy who had 200 hits a couple of years ago. And by today's standards, not making a whole lot of money.
Well, Tommy Harper, the batting instructor with the Expos, said that the pitchers made adjustments to Grusolanic, and he had to convince this hitter to make adjustments to Major League pitching, because he said you didn't lose it overnight. You got over 200 hits.
And the 1-2 pitch fouled off his leg.
He has had more base hits than any shortstop in the National League over the last 3 years. 487 hits, not counting this season.